welcome to the cake pop demonstration. What are cake pops, you might ask? What they are is a little piece of cake onto a piece of stick that you can eat without any utensils. So they can be a lot of fun because you can make them into cute little Easter things. Right here is just a little yellow ball that I'm making for some Easter displays. And you can actually form these into a lot of different shapes. They can be egg shapes. I made these into balls because I just, I like the ball shape. What I have done is I've gone to classes for cake pops. Recently, probably like the past 3 years, I took some classes on a lot of cakes and how to decorate and other instructional
was that in
courses.
Omaha, Nebraska? Is that where you did that?
Yes, that's exactly where I took them in Omaha. Thank you. So I took a lot of classes where I've educated myself on how to make the best cake pop. So what we're doing today is we're making moist cake pops. And the reason why I say moist cake pops is because they are probably going to be the best cake pops you've ever had. So what you'll do is you'll take your cake batter, put it into a cake pan. Doesn't matter the size or shape, you just want to bake a cake. And the cake can be whatever flavor you want. So bake your cake.
Just follow the directions on the box of the cake.
Or you can make one from scratch.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter. You just make a cake, whatever your favorite cake is. And then from there you let your cake cool because you're going to be handling this cake with your hands, and once it comes out of the oven it's too hot to handle. So you don't want to burn your hands. So let your cake cool, and then at that point you take the edges, especially the edges are really a lot tougher. So you want to make sure that you crumble those edges and you get them fine, and you put them into a bowl so that you can mix them with frosting. The frosting is what's going to bring back that moisture into that cake to form an actual cake ball. If you don't have, go ahead.
Now what if you have too much moisture in the cake?
That easily happens because a lot of people will add other things other than frosting or too much frosting, and it'll be almost a gooey substance. You don't want it to be gooey, you want it to stay shape and form. The best way to probably add something back into that would be like a pudding. Add maybe some pudding. I wouldn't add flour just because sometimes flour can ruin the taste of the cake pop. So I would add maybe like a vanilla or chocolate depending upon what you're doing. There's tons of flavors of pudding, so I would add powdered pudding back in there to give it some more like type of flour and things like that to not make it so moist because you don't want it sticky. That'd be kind of gross. Okay, so after doing that, you form your balls. And what you typically do is I use a measuring spoon, and I take that spoon and I just roll the ball into my hand. Just kind of like this. You can make them into any shape and form that you want. And then from there, I make sure I have the same measuring spoon, just obviously because you want them to all look the same, typically uniform balls. Yes, sir?
Does the size of the ball matter?
For me it does. The reason why is because if you do make them too large, they fall off the stick when you're dipping. So when you're dipping your cake pop, it just makes it too hard to actually stay on the stick, and they easily fall off, and it's a big mess. And then you have cake in your chocolate, and that's a really difficult thing to have to deal with when you're making cake pops. Okay, so at this point, you form your balls, and then what you'll want to do is you want to put them in the refrigerator. You want to get them as cold as you can, and then when you take them out, the best thing to do when you're making cake pops is obviously get some sticks. You dip your stick into your melted chocolate, and then you just go ahead and poke that in there. Yes?
What type of stick is it? What's the material?
This is paper, actually just rolled paper. It's literally like a lollipop stick. Yeah, you can use wood too. You can use a lot of various types of plastic, it doesn't matter. It depends upon what you want, but good question. So then what you do here is then you put the stick into the cake pop, and then make sure that there's chocolate around the stick. At this point, I would bring these into the fridge again to cool again and harden a little bit longer, and then take them out. Once these are all done, I'd take them out from the fridge, and then I would take my cake pop, make sure your chocolate is melted. Chocolate is a class in its own on how to learn how to deal with chocolate. I have taken some chocolate classes from a chocolatier, he called himself. And the best way to temper your chocolate, you can either do it in the microwave or you can do it on stovetop. It really depends upon what you prefer. If you do it in the microwave, you want to do it in like 30-second increments. It is easier to burn your chocolate at that point, but when it does start to get a little too warm in the microwave, all you do to temper your chocolate is to put some more chocolate pieces back into it. And then you'll mix it up and that will give moisture back to it, because what happens when chocolate gets too hot, it's taken away its moisture. So you need to put moisture back into it, either by adding more chocolate, which is preferred, or you can put in Paramount Crystals, which is wax, or you can put in, I do in the winter time, I put in coconut oil, which hardens at room temperature, and usually it's cooler in the winter time, so a coconut oil would work. So that's typically the things that I will do. So when you, yes?
How do you know when your chocolate's too dry?
Well, good question.
It won't make a ball.
Typically, when your chocolate is too dry, it's not, obviously like this. So it will harden, and it's like, chocolate. It hardens into like a ball. So you'll notice that you have a really hard time with it, and it's hot. If it's hot and starts to get hard and binds up, then you know you overcooked it. So then you put the chocolate into it.
You have to either that or to thin it out a little bit, or add more chocolate to temper it, and that's what they really mean by tempering.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, it gets too high where you can't even, you can't put a ball in it, right?
Right.
It becomes like sludge, like hard, really
Yeah.
hard.
Really hard.
So you can do a lot of different things. So when you are doing your dipping your ball, what you'll want to do is you'll tap the sides, because otherwise it will be really thick coating and then it'll start dripping down. You don't want to start dripping down. You want to get it a nice thinner layer, because otherwise it'll be a thick layer drip down your stick. And then at this point you can decorate your cake pop. You can do it various ways. You can do it with little sprinkles, or you can take a bag with melted chocolate and pipe different designs on there, or you can take different candies and put those onto the cake pop. It's really whatever you decide on what look you prefer you want to see. Otherwise, display-wise with cake pops, as you see here, I have various ways of displaying it. Either you can put them straight up into like a piece of foam, or you can put them down onto paper, parchment paper, which it doesn't stick. You don't want to use wax paper.
Why?
The reason why is because it'll melt the wax and it'll be hard to get off, and it'll just stick to the bottom.
Yeah.
So the paper is the best way to go, parchment paper. So you can either have them sticking up or sitting down, and typically when I have them down, you can put little ribbons on them. You can put ribbons on there too, or put them into like little bags, individual bags, if you're going to hand them out and stuff like that. You don't want everybody touching them. But otherwise, that's it for my demonstration. Thank you. Oh yes, you have a question.
Why not just use a preformed pan when you're making cake balls?
Well, the reason why I opt for the way of going with baking the cake and doing it the very long and difficult way is because it's a lot more moist, and I think it tastes better. When you do have a pan that's already molded for you, it's a lot faster, which is really nice. So when you're doing this, you'll be like, oh my god, I don't care what they taste like. I wish they would have just done that. But they don't taste as good. So if you're looking for something that tastes really good, do it this way. Otherwise, if you do the preformed pan, it's a little drier, and it's more of a cake rather. This is like a pre-moistened cake on a stick. So it just tastes a little bit better, I think. The moist cake pop is what I desire. Well, thank you everybody for listening, and have a wonderful Easter.
Thank you, Melissa.